Tonight we rest, not because the day has ended, though it has, but because rest is something the heart has been asking for all along, in a voice too quiet to hear over the noise. There is a kind of peace that does not depend on the world being kind to you. It is not found in a quieter job, or a calmer day, or a room without problems. It is older than that. It is deeper than that. The Buddha pointed to it. The old Zen masters lived inside it. And the stories they left behind still carry it. The way a river still carries the moon long after the moon has moved on. So tonight, we do something simple. We listen for old stories, told slowly, the way you would walk through a forest at dusk. You do not need to hold on to any of it. You do not need to remember a single word. You only need to let the stories carry you, the way water carries a leaf. Without effort, without resistance. This is not guided meditation. There are no instructions to follow. There is nothing to practice. There is only the sound of a voice, and the shape of old stories, and the quiet that gathers between the words. By the time this ends, you may find that the peace you were searching for was never far away. It was never lost. It was simply hidden behind the habit of looking for it somewhere else. So settle in. Let the weight of the day leave your shoulders. Close your eyes if you like, or keep them open and watch the images drift. Breathe slowly, and let go of any need to stay alert. There is nothing here to catch. There is only something to receive. Tonight, the teachings are not about doing. They are about undoing. About setting down what you never needed to carry. About finding the quiet place that has always been inside you, waiting. There is nothing to prepare. There is nothing to arrange. The night is already made for rest, the way the river is already made for the leaf. You have only to let yourself be carried. And so we begin, not with a lesson, but with a story, the oldest kind of teaching there is. And of all the old stories, tonight we have chosen the ones that speak of peace. Peace is something near. Peace is something given. Peace is something that waits, patiently, like water, for us to stop swimming. There is an old story, told in many lands, about an elephant and the blind men who met him. There is an old story that was told in the time of the Buddha, in a city where many roads came together. Outside the city gates, there was a wide field. And in that field, one morning, an elephant was brought. Not a small elephant, a great one, taller than 3 men, dark as wet stone, slow as the turning of the seasons. Now, in that city there lived 5 men who had been blind since birth. They had never seen the sun. They had never seen a face. They had never seen an elephant. But they had heard stories about elephants, about how vast they were, how powerful, how full of wonder. The king of the city, on that morning, made a decision. He would show these 5 men what an elephant was, not to mock them, to honor them. So he sent for them, and they were led out, one by one, into the wide field. The first man walked forward slowly, his hands held out before him. He found the side of the elephant. It was like a great wall. He pressed his palm against it. Warm, immense, unmoving. And he said, "An elephant is like a wall." The second man walked forward. His hands found the tusk, long, smooth, curved, sharp at the end. And he said, "An elephant is like a spear." The third man found the tail, fine hairs, swinging slowly in the morning air. And he said, "An elephant is like a rope." The fourth man found the leg, thick as a tree trunk, rooted in the earth. And he said, "An elephant is like a pillar." The fifth man found the ear, wide, thin, fanning gently. And he said, "An elephant is like a great leaf." Then the king asked each of them, in turn, what the elephant was like. And each man spoke, full of certainty. A wall, a spear, a rope, a pillar, a leaf. And because each man had felt a different part, and because each man was sure of what his own hands had known, they began to argue. "You are wrong," said the man who had felt the tusk. You are wrong, said the man who had felt the tail. I felt it with my own hands, said the man who had felt the leg. It is a pillar. I am not mistaken. The argument grew. The 5 men raised their voices. They shook their staffs at one another. Their faces grew red. They were certain, each of them, completely certain, that the truth was what their own hands had touched. And here's the thing. Not one of them was lying. Not one of them was foolish. Each of them had told the truth about what he had touched. And yet, each of them was wrong about the elephant. The elephant stood in the field, unmoved, unbothered. The elephant did not argue about being a wall. The elephant did not insist that it was a spear. The elephant simply stood there, enormous and whole, and let 5 men argue over its edges. There was a servant standing near the king, an old man. He had lived in the city for many years, and he had seen many arguments like this one. He watched the 5 men shout, and he felt a kind of sadness, because he understood something they could not see. He stepped forward, and he spoke gently. Friends, he said, will you stop and listen? The 5 men turned toward his voice, still angry, still gripping their staffs. You have all touched the same animal, he said. You have all told the truth. And you are all wrong, because you have mistaken a part for the whole. If you would each take one step to the side and feel a different part, you would understand. But you will not step aside, because you are in love with your own certainty. And that was the teaching. The elephant was not a wall. The elephant was not a spear. The elephant was not a rope, or a pillar, or a leaf. The elephant was all of these, and more than all of these. But the 5 men could only hold in their hands what their hands could reach. How many of us are like those 5 men? We meet a person, we feel one part of them, and we decide who they are. We meet a situation, we see one corner of it, and we decide how it will end. We hold an opinion, and the more we repeat it, the more solid it becomes, until we are ready to fight for it. Not because it is true, but because it is ours. The mind wants to be certain. Certainty feels safe. It feels like solid ground, like the pillar the 4th man held in his hands. But the ground is larger than any one hand can hold. And here is the quiet teaching of the elephant. Peace does not come from being right. Peace comes from knowing that you may only be holding one part. Peace comes from loosening the grip of certainty. Peace comes when you can say to yourself, maybe I cannot see the whole. And that is all right. There is more to this than my hands can reach. The elephant did not need the 5 men to agree. The elephant was already whole. The peace of the elephant was not in the argument. It was in the standing. It was in the stillness of a great animal, unconcerned with how it was described. So tonight, if there is a belief you have been gripping tightly, about a person, about yourself, about how your life must go, you can loosen your fingers. Just a little. You can make room for the possibility that you are holding one true part of something much larger. You do not have to be right about everything tonight. You do not have to understand everything tonight. You do not have to defend your version of the world tonight. The elephant is still standing. The whole is still whole. You can rest your certainty and let the rest of the truth be as large as it truly is. And that, in the quiet, is a kind of freedom. Think of how much of your day is spent defending a version of things. Someone speaks, and you prepare your answer before they finish. Someone disagrees, and your chest tightens, because it feels like they are attacking the ground you stand on. But they are not attacking the elephant. They are only describing the part they touched. And you are only describing the part you touched. The 5 men argued because each of them was standing in the same place, in front of the same animal, holding one piece of it, and calling that piece the whole. The piece they were looking for was not in winning the argument. It was standing right beside them. Huge, quiet, patient, waiting to be touched from another side. What would it cost you, tonight, to be a little less sure? Not to drop your beliefs, not to surrender your truth, only to hold it more gently, To allow the possibility that the person across from you is also touching something real. To allow your own view to be a hand and not a cage. That gentleness is not weakness. It is the wideness of the elephant. It is the peace of knowing you do not have to be the whole. You only have to be one honest hand, open, in the dark, touching something vast. And the blind men, in the story, do something remarkable at the end. The story does not always tell this part, but if you listen closely, you can hear it. After the argument, after the shouting, the 5 men do not become seeing. They remain blind. They remain in the dark. But they stop shouting. They take one step to the side, each of them. Their hands find a different part. And slowly, in the dark, without a word, they begin to assemble the elephant between them. A wall here, a tusk there, a tail, a pillar, a leaf. Not one of them can see the whole. But together, touching different parts, they come closer to the truth than any one of them did alone. That is the quiet teaching of the elephant, and it is also the quiet teaching of tonight. You do not need to see everything. You only need to be willing to take one step to the side, one step away from your certainty, one step closer to the person who feels something different from you, and is not wrong for feeling it. The mind that is willing to be moved is the mind that can finally rest. The grip that loosens is the hand that can finally hold something new. Tonight, in this quiet, you can take one step to the side, and the elephant, the whole, vast, beautiful elephant, will still be there, waiting, complete, at peace. The fire of the argument burns low. The 5 men fall silent, one by one. The elephant stands in the field, and the morning passes over it, and nothing is lost. Nothing needs to be won. Nothing needs to be proven. There is another story from the banks of a slow river about a boat that carried no one. There is an old story from the banks of a wide river about a monk who carried an anger he could not set down. The monk had lived in a small temple on the far side of the river since he was a boy. He had learned to read the sutras there. He had learned to sweep the courtyard. He had learned to light the evening incense. And he had learned one other thing, how to carry a grievance. It began with a merchant, a man who, years ago, had cheated the monk's old teacher out of an inheritance, a piece of land, a grove of fruit trees, a sum of money. The details had grown dim with time, but the anger had not grown dim. The anger had grown sharper, brighter, more polished, the way a stone is polished by being held and turned over in the hand for years. Every time the young monk remembered the merchant, his jaw tightened. Every time the old story was retold in the village, he felt the heat rise in his chest. He had decided, long ago, that the merchant was the cause of his suffering, and he repeated this to himself so often and so faithfully that it had become the shape of his mind. One evening, the monk was given a task. He was to cross the river to the town on the other side, to deliver a message to the abbot there. He accepted. He stepped into a small wooden boat. He took up the oars, and he began to row across the wide, slow water. It was dusk. The river lay flat and dark, the color of old iron. The sky was the color of ash. Mist hung over the water, low and thin. There was no wind. There was no sound but the dip of the oars and the soft knock of wood against water. The monk rowed into the middle of the river, his mind far away, turning the old grievance over and over, the way he always did. The memory of the merchant, the injustice, the land, the wrong that had never been put right. And then, out of the mist, something came at him. A boat. A small, dark boat, drifting with the current. Silent. Unmanned. It came slowly, aimlessly, with no one to guide it. And it struck the monk's boat with a soft thud. The monk felt the impact, and his anger rose at once. It rose fast, the way it always rose. Warm. Quick. Familiar. He stood, gripping the oar, and he shouted into the mist. "Look where you are going. Do you not see me here? Do you have no eyes at all?" There was no answer. Only the water. Only the mist. Only the soft lapping of the current against both boats. The monk leaned forward, peering through the gray light, and he saw that the boat that had struck him was empty. There was no one in it. There was no one to scold, no one to blame, no one to shout at. It was just a boat, loose from its mooring, drifting with the current, empty. And in that moment, something happened. The monk's anger did not go away slowly. It went away all at once, because there was nowhere for it to go. He had been ready to fight, ready to accuse, ready to make someone else responsible for the heat in his chest. And there was no one there. The boat was empty. He stood in his own boat, in the middle of the dark river, and he began to understand something he had not understood in years. His anger had never belonged to the merchant. The merchant was far away, in another town, living his own life, probably not thinking of the young monk at all. The merchant was like the empty boat. He had done what he had done long ago, and then he had moved on with the current of his own life. He was not sitting in the monk's chest. He was not tightening the monk's jaw. He was not keeping the monk awake at night. The monk had been doing all of that alone. He looked at the empty boat, bobbing gently in the dark water, and he understood that for years he had been shouting at an empty boat. He had been standing in his own small vessel, shaking his fist at the mist, at a shape that had already drifted away. How many of us live like that monk? We carry a grievance, and we believe the person who wronged us is inside our suffering with us. We believe they are standing there in our chest, tightening our jaw, keeping us awake. But they are not. They are in their own life, on their own river, in their own bed. The person we carry is not the person. The person we carry is our own memory, polished, repeated, heavy in our hands. The one who hurt you is no longer the one hurting you. The boat is empty. It has been empty for a long time. Soften the story you tell yourself about that person. You do not have to make them good. You only have to make them small as they really are in your life. Not a giant standing in your room. Not a voice that speaks all night. Just a person far away, in their own boat, on their own water, carrying their own weather. And see what room appears inside you when they are no longer standing there. Room to breathe. Room to rest. Room for the sound of the river. Room for the soft knock of your own oars. Room for yourself. The monk rode the rest of the way to the town with his jaw unclenched. He delivered his message. And the story says he slept that night as he had not slept in years. Not because the merchant had apologized. Not because the past had changed. Because the boat had been empty all along, and he had finally looked. When you can see that, when you can see that the boat is empty, the anger has nowhere to stand. It falls, the way a shout falls into empty water. It does not echo back. It does not find a target. It just dissolves, softly, into the night. And you are left, not with the person, but with the quiet, and with yourself, and with the choice of what to carry next. So tonight, you can test this. You can think of the one who wronged you, the one who keeps you awake, and you can look at them honestly. You can see that they are not here. They are not in this room. They are not in this breath. They are far away, in their own life, on their own river. There is something else the empty boat teaches us, and it is this. Anger is work. It is the heaviest work we do while lying completely still. The monk did not spend his years carrying sacks of rice or climbing mountains. He spent them turning a memory over in his hands. And that turning, that rehearsing, that rewounding, was more exhausting than any labor of the body. Anger keeps the body ready to fight. It keeps the jaw tight, the shoulders high, the breath shallow. It keeps the mind running the same track, the same old track, worn so deep that the monk could not even feel the ground anymore. He only felt the anger, He mistook the anger for the thing he was angry about. But the boat was empty. The anger was doing no one any good. It was not teaching the merchant a lesson. It was not changing the past. It was not healing the old teacher's loss. It was only keeping one man, the monk himself, standing in the cold mist of his own river, shouting, "If anger is work, then letting go is rest." Not giving up, not saying the wrong was all right. It was not all right, but the wrong is over. The wrong happened long ago, in another time, in another weather. What remains is only your hand, holding the memory, and you are allowed to open your hand. You are allowed to set it down and be tired no more. And you can set the boat down. No one is rowing it. No one is coming to take it from you. It is empty. It has always been empty. The river is wide, and the night is soft, and you are in your own small boat, and you are free to row home. Lighter. The mist closes over the empty boat. The current takes it gently, and it drifts away into the dark. The monk dips his oars, and the water makes a soft sound, and the sound is the only sound, and it is enough. There is another story, told by the sea, about two small fish who spent their whole lives looking for the ocean. There is an old story, told by the sea, about two small fish who spent their whole lives looking for the ocean. They were ordinary fish. Small, silver, quick. They lived in a part of the sea where the water was clear and the light came down from the surface in long, slow columns. They had everything they needed. They had water to breathe. They had food drifting past. They had warm currents and cool currents, and the whole wide world of the sea to move through. But they were not satisfied. They had heard stories. Older fish had told them about the ocean, about its vastness, its depth, its mystery. The ocean, the older fish said, was the most wonderful thing in the world. It held every living thing. It reached further than any fish could swim. It was the source of all water, all life, all peace. And the two small fish believed that, to find peace, they must find the ocean. So they set out. They swam away from their home, away from the light columns, away from the warm currents. They swam toward where the water grew darker and colder and deeper. They swam for days. They passed other fish who asked where they were going. "We are looking for the ocean," they said. "But you are in the ocean," said the fish they passed. The two small fish did not understand. They looked around. They saw water, but it was just water. It was the same water they had always known. It did not look like the ocean they had heard described. It did not feel vast. It did not feel mysterious. It was just water. So they kept swimming. They swam past reefs. They swam through valleys of seaweed. They swam over plains of pale sand where nothing moved. And still, they did not find the ocean. They only found more water. Always more water. At last, they reached the edge of a great trench. The seafloor fell away beneath them into darkness. And there, resting on a rock, they found an old fish. The oldest fish they had ever seen. His eyes were pale with age. His fins were frayed. He had been swimming for longer than the oldest stories could remember. The two small fish stopped in front of him. "Old one," they said, "we have heard about the ocean. We have traveled so far to find it. We have asked everyone we met. We have swum through water that was colder and darker and deeper than our home. But we have not found the ocean. We have only found more water. Tell us, wise one, where is the ocean? How do we reach it? How do we finally find peace?" The old fish looked at them for a long, slow time. Then he opened his mouth, and he said, "This is it." The two small fish looked at each other. "This is what?" "The ocean," said the old fish. "This is the ocean. You are swimming in it. You have always been swimming in it. The water you were born into, the water you have breathed every moment of your life, is the very thing you have been searching for. It has never been somewhere else. It has never been out of reach. You are inside it now, and you were inside it before you knew its name. The two small fish were silent. There is a moment in the story when the two small fish stop. Just stop. In the middle of the great trench, beside the old fish, they stop swimming. And in that stopping, they feel something they have never felt before. The water. It was always there. It had always been there, since the first moment of their first day. But they had never stopped long enough to feel it. To feel the ocean against their skin. To feel the light inside it. To feel the gentle, endless carrying. That is the whole of the teaching, in the end. Not the finding. The stopping. The old fish did not give them directions to the ocean. He gave them permission to stop looking for it. And that permission, to stop, is the peace itself. You can stop now. You have been swimming for so long. Toward the next thing, the next goal, the next quiet. But the quiet is not ahead of you. It is here, waiting, the way the ocean waited, the way water has always been. You do not need to find it. You only need to stop and feel it and let it hold you. They looked around them, slowly, as if seeing the water. For the first time, and they did see it. For the first time, they truly saw it. They saw how it moved around them, holding them, carrying them. They saw the light in it. They saw the life in it. They felt the gentle pressure of it against their own skin. They realized that every breath they had ever taken had been ocean. Every current that had ever carried them had been ocean. Every wave that had ever passed over them had been ocean. They had not been searching for the ocean. They had been searching for a name. The ocean had never been lost. It had only been unnamed. The old fish watched them, and his voice was kind. You were told the ocean was a far-off thing, he said. That was the lie. The ocean is the nearest thing. It is the thing you are touching right now. Peace is the same. You were told it was somewhere else. In another job, another city, another year, another person. That is the lie. Peace is the nearest thing. It is what is here. It is the water you are already swimming in. How many of us live like those two small fish? We spend our lives looking for peace as if it were a distant shore. We believe that when the work is done, when the problem is solved, when the person comes, when the money arrives, when the night is finally quiet, then, at last, we will have peace. But the water is already here. The peace is already here. It is in this breath. It is in this moment. It is in the simple fact that you are alive and resting and being carried. It is in the warmth of the blanket. It is in the softness of the pillow. It is in the sound of this voice, moving through the quiet like a current, holding you, carrying you. You do not need to reach the ocean. You are in it. You have always been in it. You only need to stop swimming long enough to notice. So tonight, let the searching rest. Let the reaching rest. There is nowhere to go. There is nothing to arrive at. The peace you want is not waiting at the end of the journey. It is the water you are moving through. It is the moment you are in. It is this. Look at the effort you spend searching for peace. The new routine. The new book. The new place. The moving to another city. The starting over, the hoping that this time the quiet will arrive. And it never quite does, because the searching itself is what keeps the water in motion. The reaching is what keeps you from noticing what is already all around you. The two small fish were not told they were missing something. They were told to stop looking at the horizon, to feel the water. And that is all that is being asked of you tonight. Not to find peace, not to earn peace. Not to become peaceful by effort, just to feel it, here, now, pressing gently against you from every side. Peace is not a destination you will reach. It is a quality of the water you are moving through. It is this breath. It is this sound. It is the voice of this story, carrying you the way the current carries the fish. You do not have to swim. You do not have to find. You can rest your fins. The ocean will do the rest. And when you forget, and you will forget, the mind always forgets. That is what minds do. You can remember the old fish. You can hear him, patient and kind. This is it. You are in it. Not the solution, not the arrival, the water. So let the two small fish be a gift to you tonight. Every time your mind starts searching, let it hear the old fish. This is it. Every time you feel restless, anxious, looking for the thing that will finally settle you, remember, you are already swimming in it. It is called now. It is called here. It is called you, alive, breathing, resting, carried. The old fish closes his pale eyes. The two small fish drift beside him, and the light comes down through the deep water, and the sea is quiet, and there is nothing missing. There is one more story, told in the mountains, about a man who ran from a tiger and found the sweetest thing of his life. There is an old story, told in the mountains, about a man who ran from a tiger and found the sweetest thing of his life. The man was walking through a forest, in the story, on his way to somewhere he could no longer remember. The path was quiet. The trees were tall. The light came down in patches. It was the kind of walk a person takes when they are not in a hurry. And the man was not in a hurry. So he walked slowly, breathing the cool air, listening to the leaves. And then he heard the tiger. It came out of the deeper forest without a sound. Or rather, it came out of the deeper forest the way tigers always come. Which is to say, all at once. Too close. Too fast. The man saw it. The man ran. He ran along the path, and then off the path. He crashed through undergrowth. His breath was ragged. His heart was a fist in his chest. He ran, and the tiger ran behind him, and the forest thinned, and the ground began to rise. And then the ground ended. The man reached the edge of a cliff. He stopped, panting, his sandals at the very edge of nothing. Below him, a long fall to a valley floor. Above him, the sheer face of the cliff rising into the mist. Behind him, the tiger, slowing, crouching, certain. There was no way out. The man knew it. The tiger knew it. The man looked at the tiger, and the tiger looked at the man. And the man did the only thing he could do. He jumped for the edge of the cliff, and he caught a vine. It was an old vine, thick as a wrist, growing down the face of the rock. The man swung against the cliff, gripping it with both hands. His feet found a small ledge. He hung there, breathing hard, his arms shaking. The cliff at his back, the valley far below. And then he heard a new sound. A small, soft, persistent sound. Gnawing. He looked up. On the edge of the cliff, at the top of the vine, a mouse had appeared. A small gray mouse. Patient as a heartbeat. It had begun to gnaw at the vine, one strand at a time. Slowly, surely. Above him, the tiger. Below him, the fall. Around him, the vine, thinning strand by strand. The man had no way up. He had no way down. He had no way out. And the moments were running out. And everyone who has ever heard this story knows that the man was, in every real sense, finished. And then the man looked to the side. There, growing out of the rock, within reach of his hand, was a wild strawberry. It was small. It was red. It was perfect. And it was there. And it was within reach. And the man, with the tiger above him, and the fall below him, and the vine thinning in his fingers, the man plucked the strawberry. He put it in his mouth, and he tasted it. The story says it was the sweetest strawberry he had ever eaten. And the story says that, in that moment, he was at peace. Not because the tiger was gone. Not because the vine was saved. Not because the fall had disappeared. But because, in that one moment, there was nothing else. There was only the taste. Only the sweetness. Only the small, perfect, red present, in his mouth. We are all hanging from that vine. The tiger is the tomorrow we are afraid of. The fall is the past we cannot change. The mouse is time, and time is always gnawing. We all know this. Every one of us knows this. In the quiet of the night, when the mind turns, and the future roars, and the past pulls. And yet, there is a strawberry. The present moment is the strawberry. It is the one thing that is truly yours. The one thing that time cannot gnaw. The one thing that neither the tiger nor the fall can touch. Everything else in the story is beyond you. The tiger is beyond you. The valley is beyond you. The vine is beyond you. But the strawberry is within reach. Peace does not wait for the tiger to leave. Peace does not wait for the vine to be saved. Peace does not wait for the problems to end, or the past to heal, or the future to be safe. Peace is available now, in the small, red, perfect present, in the taste of food, in the warmth of a blanket, in the sound of rain on the roof, in the weight of the body, finally, at rest. And this is why the old masters loved this story, because it is not a story about danger. It is a story about attention. The man did not change his situation. He changed where he placed his attention. And where attention goes, the mind follows. And where the mind follows, the whole world grows large or small. Put your attention on the tiger, and the tiger fills the sky. Put your attention on the fall, and the ground rushes up forever. Put your attention on the mouse, and every second is the last. But put your attention on the strawberry, on the small, red, perfect thing within reach, and the tiger shrinks. The valley fades. The mouse becomes a distant sound, not because they are gone, but because they are no longer the whole of your world. The strawberry has become the whole of your world, and the whole of your world is sweet. Tonight, your strawberry is already within reach. It may be the warmth of the blanket. It may be the sound of rain. It may be the slow rhythm of your own breathing. It may be the voice of this story and the quiet it is weaving around you. It is small. It is here. It is within reach. Reach for it. When you lie down tonight, you will be hanging from a vine. There will be 1,000 things that could go wrong. Tomorrow, or the year after, there will be memories that pull at you. There will be worries that reach for you. The tiger will be crouching at the edge of the forest, and the mouse will be gnawing, and the valley will be deep. And there will also be the strawberry. It is always within reach. It is always there, growing out of the rock, in the middle of a life that is always a little dangerous, and always right now. You can reach for it. You can take it. You can taste the one moment you are actually alive in. And in that taste, the tiger and the valley and the mouse and the world will all grow quiet. Not gone, just quiet. Far away, unable to reach the one thing that matters. This breath, this moment, this small, sweet present, that is the teaching of the strawberry. That is the refuge that is always open. Not in the future, when things are solved. Not in the past, where they are already gone. But here, now, in your hand, on your tongue. Rest is not something you arrive at. Rest is something you reach for. Like a small red fruit, growing out of the rock, in the middle of a life that is always a little dangerous, and always right now. And do not worry if you cannot keep it. Do not worry if, in an hour, the tiger returns to the center of your mind. That is not failure. That is the shape of a human night. The mind will always return to the tiger. That is what the mind is for. It is a lookout, and lookouts scan the dark. But now you know the strawberry is there. It grows out of the rock, in every moment, within reach. And you can reach for it again. And again. Each time you reach, the taste comes back. Each time you taste, the world loosens its grip. And slowly, gently, over many nights, the hand learns to find the fruit without being told. That is all rest is, in the end. Not the absence of the tiger. The presence of the strawberry, reached for, again and again, until the reaching becomes the resting. The man finishes the strawberry. The sweetness stays in his mouth. The tiger waits above. The mouse keeps gnawing. The valley waits below. And the man, for one long moment, is completely at peace. Nothing else exists. Nothing else is needed. There is an old story, told in the courts of kings, about a ruler who had everything, and still could not find peace. The king, in the story, had been given every gift a life can hold. He had a palace that caught the morning light. He had lands that ran to the horizon and beyond. He had a treasury so full that the doors could barely close. He had a family who loved him, advisors who served him, and a kingdom that prospered under his hand. And yet, the king was not at peace. His mood swung like weather. When his kingdom prospered, he was lifted up, delighted, certain that life was good. And when the rains failed, or a border stirred, or a friend fell ill, he was cast down, darkened, certain that life was against him. He lived at the mercy of his own state of mind. Joy one season, grief the next, high as the sky one morning, low as the dust by evening. He woke each day not knowing who he would be by noon. Some days the king was generous, because all was well. Some days the king was sharp, because a worry had visited him in the night. His advisors learned to read the weather of his face. His family learned to wait for his moods to shift. And the king himself, watching his own mind from the inside, felt like a leaf on a river, moved by everything, master of nothing. This troubled him deeply. A king who is tossed by his own moods cannot rule well. A king who cannot find steadiness cannot find peace. So he sent for the wisest person in his land, a sage who lived in the mountains, and who had seen many kings come and go, and who had learned to see beneath the surface of things. Wise one, said the king, I have everything, and still I suffer. My joy does not last. My sorrow returns. I am carried up and down by everything that happens to me. Give me something that will hold me steady. Give me something that will comfort me when I am low, and remind me of truth when I am high. The sage listened. Then the sage said, I will give you a ring. Wear it always, and in it you will find what you seek. The king waited for a great ring, heavy with jewels, worthy of a palace. But the sage took a simple gold band. He engraved a few words inside it, and he handed it to the king. Do not read it yet, said the sage. Wear it, and when the moment comes, when you have nothing left and nowhere to turn, read it. Then, and only then, the king was puzzled. He put the ring on his finger, and he returned to his palace, and he went on with his life. The seasons turned. The kingdom flourished, and the king was happy. Then a war came, and the king was afraid. A harvest failed, and the king was heavy. A victory came, and the king was bright again. Through all of it, the ring stayed on his finger. Through all of it, he remembered the words of the sage. But he never read them, because he always had somewhere to turn, something to do, some mood to ride. There was one moment, in the middle of those years, when the king almost read it. A small triumph had come, a treaty signed, a dispute settled. The court had toasted him, and as he walked through the garden that evening, content with the day, his hand brushed the ring on his finger, and he thought of the words hidden inside it. Should he read them now? He was not ruined. He was not desperate. The sage had said to read it only when he had nothing left. So the king lowered his hand and let the words stay hidden. But if he had read them that evening, he would have found the same lesson. Because this too shall pass is not a teaching for the valley alone. It is a teaching for the ridge as well. The good day passes. The triumph passes. And knowing this, the good day becomes easier to enjoy because you stop clinging to it and you can simply be inside it while it lasts. The king did not know that yet. He would learn it later, in the hall of his greatest victory. But for now, he walked on through the garden, and the ring stayed silent, and the seasons turned. Until the worst day came. The story does not say exactly what it was. It was the kind of day that ends a reign. The kind of day a king never expects, and never recovers from. On that day, the king stood at the edge of losing everything. His throne, his family, perhaps his life. The army was broken. The palace was in chaos. There was nowhere left to turn. And the king, alone in the dark of his own ruin, remembered the ring. He looked down. There it was, the simple gold band. And inside it, in the small, worn letters of the sage's engraving, he read these words. This too shall pass. The king read them once. He read them again. And the words did not erase his grief. They did not rebuild his army. They did not bring back what had been lost. But they did something else. They widened. They opened a door in the middle of the ruin. Because he saw, in that moment, that his grief, as vast as it was not the whole of his life. It was a season, and a season turns. It too would pass. He was still standing. He was still breathing. And that, in that moment, was everything. Years passed. The story says the king did not fall. He gathered what remained, and he rebuilt, slowly, stone by stone. And on the day of his greatest victory, the day his enemies knelt, and his banners flew, and the court cheered his name, the king sat in his great hall, filled with triumph, at the highest moment of his restored power. And he looked at the ring. He was wise now. He had learned the lesson of the valley, and so he did not need to wait for another ruin. He slipped the ring from his finger. He read the small, worn letters once more. This too shall pass. And in the middle of his triumph, the king found the same steadiness he had found in his ruin, not clinging to the victory, not afraid of losing it, just holding it, gently, the way you hold something you know you will one day set down. And that, the story says, was the peace he had been asking for all along. Not a peace that depended on winning, not a peace that depended on losing, a peace that stood beneath both, like the ground beneath the weather. The words did not change what happened to the king. They changed what the king did with what happened. They gave him the one thing he had never had: steadiness. How many of us live like the young king? We are lifted by the good days and crushed by the bad ones. We wait for the victory that will finally settle us. We fear the loss that will finally break us. And all the while, we are riding the weather of our own lives. Up and down, never steady, never still. But here is the teaching of the ring. Every state passes. The joy will pass, so you do not need to cling to it. The grief will pass, so you do not need to drown in it. The success will pass. The failure will pass. The fear will pass. The calm will pass. All of it is weather. And you are not the weather. You are the sky that the weather moves through. This too shall pass. Say it softly, and you can feel the grip loosen. Say it in the middle of a good day, and it will keep you humble. Say it in the middle of a bad day, and it will keep you standing. Say it on the nights when the mind will not rest, and it will remind you that even this restless night, is a season, and it is already turning. This is not cynicism. It is not the voice that says, nothing matters, so why try? It is the opposite. It is the voice that says, everything passes, so everything is precious. Because when you know that the good moment will not stay forever, you can finally be fully inside it. And when you know that the hard moment will not stay forever, you can finally breathe inside it. The ring does not take anything away. It gives everything back the way it really is. A gift held in an open hand. A season moving through a sky that does not move. And whatever you are carrying tonight, the worry, the longing, the regret, the excitement, the hope, it is weather. It has already begun to pass. You do not have to fight it. You do not have to hurry it. You only have to let it pass, the way the clouds pass over the moon, the way the night passes into dawn. This too shall pass. And you remain. The sky remains. The quiet remains. The king slipped the ring back onto his finger. The hall filled with celebration. And beneath it all, steady as stone, the king sat at peace. And so, tonight, we have walked with elephants and blind men. We have rowed with a monk who shouted at an empty boat. We have swum with two small fish, looking for the ocean they were already inside. And we have stood at the edge of a cliff and tasted a strawberry. For old stories. And one thread running through them all, quiet as water. The peace you are looking for is not somewhere else. It is not in being right. It is not in being avenged. It is not in the next shore. It is not in the future. It is here. It has always been here, waiting for you to stop looking past it. So now, you can let the stories go. You do not need to keep them. You do not need to remember them. Let them drift away, the way the empty boat drifted away on the dark river. Let the elephant stand in its field, whole and at peace. Let the two small fish swim in their endless ocean. Let the strawberry be eaten and sweet and finished. And you can rest now. The world will still be there in the morning. The problems will still be there. The tiger will still be crouching at the edge of the forest. But you do not have to carry any of it tonight. Tonight, you can be carried by the story, by the voice, by the quiet, by the ocean you have been swimming in all along. Let your thoughts slow down. Let your shoulders soften. Let the weight of the day sink down into the mattress, into the earth, into the deep water. There is nothing left to solve. There is nothing left to prove. You are already in the ocean. You are already enough. You are already here. And if your mind wanders tonight, and it will, because minds wander the way rivers wander, you can bring it home with one small phrase. This too shall pass. This worry shall pass. This longing shall pass. This night shall pass. And you remain. You are the sky, and the sky does not pass. Let the stories settle, the way mist settles on a pond. Let the elephant stand in its field. Let the empty boat drift on the river. Let the two small fish swim in their endless ocean. Let the strawberry be eaten and sweet and finished. Let the ring rest on the finger of the king, who has finally found his steadiness. There is a peace that has always been living inside you, beneath the weather of your thoughts. Tonight, you can rest in it, not by finding it, not by earning it, by simply lying down inside it, the way a river lies inside its own bed. And tomorrow, if the noise returns, you will know the way back. Not to this video, but to the quiet that this video points to. The quiet is not here. It is not in me. It is in you. It always has been. Thank you for resting with us tonight. If these stories brought you ease, please subscribe. More teachings are on their way, always for deep rest and inner peace. May your sleep be gentle. May your mind be quiet. May you remember that peace is the nearest thing. Sleep peacefully. Namaste.